All right, very quickly again, I have to always remind you to back up, okay? I assume everybody's backing up their database, yeah? Good. Was that... Do I take silence as it being an agreement, or silence as in I don't want to tell him I'm going to do it? There are many ways, so just quickly, one of the simple methods that I recommend, little programs, which is not ours. This thing, MySQL Backup FTP, it costs about $20, and it does effectively a database dump. The only look, I'm not going to go through how to use it. Like I said, it's not our piece of software, but it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and they are very responsive. If you email their support, you know, they'll help you. What I wanted to tell you, really the only database, see, this is the list of the databases in MySQL on the server. The only one you really need to back up is the Timestone one. Timestone AUX is where your thumbnails are stored that you see in images mode. And you don't really need to back them up, because as long as you've got your original images, we can always recreate them if worse comes to worse. So you don't really need to back up the Timestone AUX database, which is the bigger one because it's got all the thumbnails in there. Timestone FP and Timestone FPX are for people who have TS Portal, and you don't really need to back them up. You back up FPX if you're using tasks, but we'll talk about that when we talk about TS Portal. So I just want to underscore that it's very important that you have some backup system. By all means, you need to back up. You can back up the data directory where the database is installed, MySQL, which by default, there is no real default because it will depend on what version MySQL it is and what versions of Windows you've got. But it's usually, if you leave things at default in program data, MySQL, that folder, in this case MySQL 5.6. So you'd want to be backing up your program data /MySQL folder as you would in Windows, right? But that's not good enough for MySQL because the service that runs all the time, you'd want to be also doing a backup with some sort of utility which takes a snapshot of your database then and does the backup. So I don't really care what system you use. If you don't have anything, this guy for 20 bucks at least gets you something. There are lots of other ways. And we introduced last year, and a few of you are using it, so I'd like to get your feedback on the people who are. tsArchive, which is something that runs with FileMaker, like TS Portal. And here we use this to archive jobs. What do I mean by that? Archiving jobs helps keep your database size smaller. What it does is it turns a job off. It turns a job off, so when you go to the File Open menu, you won't see it, won't be there anymore. And that's handy if you've got every year shooting the same job with similar names. It prevents an operator inadvertently opening the wrong job because it's similarly named. So you can turn off your old jobs. And it also gets rid of the auxiliary files. It gets rid of the thumbnails from the database. So it keeps your database size smaller. So there are two things it does. And this little utility does it for you. If you want to, you can actually delete the job. But there's no real need once it's archived, because we've made a whole lot of space by doing the archive process, and then the job is still there. If you need to, in 5 years' time, go and do a reprint or look somebody up, you can just come back in here and reactivate it, and you'll be able to open it again in File Open. So it's a way of getting rid of jobs without getting rid of jobs. Yeah, Bill? Oh, to see the change, yeah. But this is not something you're going to use every day or every week or every month. You just use this once a year and clean up some jobs, you know, from 2 years ago. You decide how long you want to keep the jobs and archive the ones that are older than that. And then that's your first year. And then from there on, as you start a new year, archive the jobs 2 or 3 years ago, whatever you decide to do. You're not deleting them. That's the important thing. If you archive, you're not deleting them, so you can always go back to them. And there's plenty of room in MySQL for text. Text doesn't take up much space. It's the bitmaps, the thumbnails, and the archive process gets rid of that. And you can always get them back by refreshing when you reactivate. I can go into that in more detail, but it's pretty straightforward, very well documented as well in the knowledge base with examples. Brad? If you've got TS Portal, it'll just run. So now that you've got TS Portal, I can just give you this, and you just use the same architecture. If you have to buy, if you're buying FileMaker, get FileMaker 14 or later. It doesn't need to be the server version. It doesn't have to be the advanced version. Just FileMaker Pro 14. It runs in that. I can show you this in more detail. I don't think it's necessary, but there's some nice things where you can sort by season, workspace, and account. Just find, if you want to get rid of all the 2011 ones, just do a quick search for there. They're all my jobs from the 2011 season, and I can archive all those in one hit. You're about to archive 12 jobs. Are you sure? Yes. And it changes colours, so you know that's archived. So I showed this last year. Who actually ended up using it? Karen? Apart from you. Sandra, you were using it. It's fine, worked okay, yeah? Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. Yep. It's one of our bigger customers in Australia. It rescued them. They didn't know about it, or they did, but they just ignored it when I talked about it. And back in February, they ran out of space on their server, and I was away and trying to ring Peter, and Peter got this installed for them, and it just got them out of the poo in the short term. And they archived the lab. They had millions and millions of jobs. They just got rid of some old jobs, made a big hole in the database that they could fill with the new jobs, and it rescued them. So it's worth it. Jacob, you're using it? Yeah. Have you had to restore, reactivate jobs? Yeah, okay, cool. It's a goodie. We don't charge for it. You'll need to buy FileMaker. We don't charge for this. And maybe one day this will end up in the apps, like in Neopack, so it's all together. But there's more important things to do in Neopack. You can use this instead for now. Karen. Yeah. Right. And you can't delete them. Can't delete them because then you have orphan orders. So you just want to, yeah. 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 There's a lot of these little cleaning up things. Yeah, look, I think that's a good idea. I wouldn't mind something that cleans this up too, your products. I now have a system in place. I went through and cleaned this out and renamed. So I have a little C for anything that's a composite product, a little D for all my digital imaging products, a little P that prefixes all the portrait products, so at least keeps them together, they're easier to find. But this could use a little search tool and some way of cleaning that up. Yeah, no, it can't do it now, obviously, cleaning up the office, but I'd never thought of it, to be honest. Yeah. She doesn't like Australian chocolate. I haven't handed anything out yet. Best chocolate in the world, Cadbury's from Australia. No. Yes. All right. Any other questions? No? We move on. So backup and definitely need to back up. There are always disaster stories on backing up. So if you're in doubt about what to do and how to do it, by all means, contact us. and we'll sort of point you in the right direction. See, the good thing, sorry, I'll go back to here. The good thing about this little guy, it's really powerful for your $20 investment. And I use it to back up my own work. I use it, all your licensing information is in a MySQL database. It backs that up. Because without that I wouldn't be able to invoice you for your licenses. So I obviously need to back that up. It sends you emails. It sends you an email when you've had a successful backup. Or if it's an unsuccessful backup, it sends you an email. That's critical. If you're looking at any solution, it needs to tell you that yes, the backup has happened successfully or not. Or not. It has to do both, even if it's successful. So you know that you're going to get an email every day or every 2 days, every 12 hours, depending on how frequently you schedule it. That way you know if you don't get an email, something is wrong. That's a very subtle difference, but it's a very important one. You can't just email you when something goes wrong. And you think, oh, if I don't get an email, it must have worked. Because if the whole thing doesn't work, you're still not going to get an email. So you need the email on success and on failure. And if you don't get an email at all, that's a failure. Yep. Now your server can be completely off. You're not going to get an email. All right. Now,